We're going live on YouTube. We're live. You just see the cover image. And we're live.
Hey, welcome to Victims and Villains. We are mental health through pop culture here. This is the content that we cover on this channel, and all four of us are immensely devastated to hear about the sudden death this morning of Jason David Frank. I think I speak for everyone in the group when I say that we all grew up on Power Rangers. And to note that this Jason's death is also a suicide makes this even that much harder to kind of go through and have to endure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's what makes it the most difficult for me. Um, is that he took his own life. Like it's devastating to hear that for anyone, but somebody that I grew up watching and I don't want to say idolizing, but somebody that I admired, knowing that that's how it ended for them, just breaks my heart.
Yeah. Like I woke up at like 6 o'clock this morning. My mom texted me. She's like, "Hey, did you hear that Jason David Frank committed suicide?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I spent from like 6 in the morning until whenever comicbook.com posted that the post about it. And it was just like one of those things where like me and Josh Brecky were talking about it throughout the day. Like, do we want to believe it? Do we not? And it's just like one of those unbelievable things that was not expecting at all.
Yeah, and it's just like with any suicide, it's hard to wrap your brain around the whys and why now and why this person and there's a lot of speculation out there, but that doesn't help anybody. And so yeah, it's definitely upsetting and sad and like you guys caught me off guard for sure.
Yeah, I think what was probably one of the most frustrating things about this was the fact of it, just like it seemed like a fever dream for like the first like probably 5 6 hours this morning, and no one could confirm that it was like legitimate. And I think that was kind of the most heartbreaking thing, that like it felt like such a long morning because of that, to where like you weren't seeing sites like comicbook.com or Variety or TMZ that ultimately ended up breaking it, and then like at noon it kind of the reality all sank in. And so for me, I feel like I kind of held my breath this morning in just hopes that this wasn't real, that this wasn't a thing. That like Alan, much like you, man, I grew up, I would probably say that like Jason David Frank was the first guy that I end up idolizing. Like he was probably the first guy that like had an impact on me in terms of pop culture. And that just, man, like it broke my heart.
And I posted on my socials, like, I have all this stuff behind me. I didn't have to dig all this out. This is my go-to setup for behind me. It's all Power Ranger stuff, and it's all green and white Ranger stuff. Um, that I've just been collecting, and like, there's just something about that character and the way he portrayed it that just had a huge impact on my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like as far as I can remember, I was I was a version of Tommy for Halloween for probably 6 years. I had I had my mom had my one of my dad's aunts to make me a costume, a White Ranger costume, because I was a chubbier kid and it was hard to find one of my size. And she made me one. I wore it for 2 years. I was Green Ranger 1 year, and I was Zeo Ranger Red for 1 year, and I was Turbo Red for a year. And then as I was a little older, Dino Thunder come out, and I was, an older kid dressed as the Black Ranger from Dino Thunder because I had to do it. And I had countless birthdays of Power Rangers. I mean, there was probably a good 8 year span of every birthday was Power Ranger birthday. My mother, one birthday, I don't remember what birthday it was. Her and my grandmother made a green cake and decorated it like the Dragon Zord. And just be a little weird for a minute. Somehow it turned everyone's doo doo green. And when I ate it, like, I'm not kidding. I don't know how it happened, but it did.
Wow,
So
that's
yeah,
quite the story.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually did the Green Ranger a few years ago for Halloween.
What?
Obviously, yeah. I actually spent so much time making this dragon shield that I was like, you know what, it's appropriate for tonight. That appropriate attire for tonight because I don't get to wear it that often, and it might look ridiculous, but it makes me feel good.
Yeah,
You should wear it. You should wear it all the time.
all the time.
I should.
He just strolls into work on Monday.
Yeah, that's biblical, right?
Yeah.
The Green with Evil miniseries that Tommy first came on the scene for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That was not only the first set of Power Ranger episodes that I'd ever seen, but that was also my kind of introduction into multi-part storytelling on a TV show. I remember I was 7 and in grade school, so that must have been like second or third grade or something like that, and I was not allowed to watch pretty much anything that wasn't on PBS, so I was watching like Arthur and Ghost Rider and the show about the beagle acting out little
Wishbone?
Wishbone, yes.
Wishbone!
Those were my
Dude.
shows, right? So then my friend at school was like, dude, have you seen Power Rangers? They're gonna apparently this whole week is gonna be a whole new introduction of a new character. And I'm like, I know what Power Rangers is. I've never seen it. I'm not allowed to watch that stuff. And he's like, you should tell your mom that we're best friends and come over to my house every day after school and we'll watch it. So I suddenly had a new best friend, and he was such a best friend that I went over to his house every day for a week. And I loved it. I was like, this show is incredible. And this Green Ranger he's infiltrating the unit. And I mean, I had not watched an episode of Power Rangers before, but I was into it and I was sucked in. And I just fell in love with the character and loved the actor. And and then seeing him remain so loyal to the role over the years and continue to find ways to come back to it, both for his own pleasure and the pleasure of the fans, it was just always something fun to watch him do.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of Ranger actors try to become not the Power Ranger actor, but Jason David Franklin was like, no, I'm the Green Ranger, I'm the White Ranger, I'm a Power Ranger, and that's how it's always going to be. And now, like, all these actors are embracing it so much now. But he was like, he was like, no, man, this is my life.
It kind of flipped this year, even before today. Like earlier this year, he said he was done with Power Rangers. So when you saw, like, I don't know if you guys seen the photos from New Zealand over the last few weeks, they're getting ready for the 30th anniversary specials next year, and all of the Mighty Morphin Rangers are there, and he wasn't. Amy Jo Johnson has even teased that she's going, but he was largely absent from that. And I think I don't know if he was going to be a part of that or not, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do with this news going forward with that special coming up next year.
Yeah, if anything else,
he wasn't going to be there, and he had said that it wasn't about the money. or something like that, because a lot of people had speculated that, oh, he's just another guy trying to wait the last minute for more money. And that was all that I had seen that he'd said about the reason why, was that it wasn't money related. And then he even like sold one of his gold ranger or something from a recent white dragon head helmet or something on eBay for like $5,000 over the summer. And yeah, it seemed to be like this was the year he was departing from
Yeah.
Power Rangers for some reason. And I wonder if that was a whole mindset that led up to this.
I think part of that reason was getting ready for his movie next year, Legend of the White Dragon, like trying to get people to focus on that and not the Power Ranger aspect of everything.
Yeah.
I also want to like just because we've been reminiscing so much about like what he means as an actor to us, but one of the warning signs of suicide is giving away your donations. And so, even looking at it from that hindsight, I think, Chester Bennington is another one that hit me really, really deeply. Brandon and I, when we started podcasting, like we ended up like doing a podcast on their first album. And when you go back and you listen to the very like last album that Chester Bennington wrote, you can see and hear the warning signs of someone depressed and on the verge of suicide and not wanting to be alive anymore. And I'm almost curious if that has something to do with it. Why he's kind of distanced himself from the Power Rangers. Did he feel typecast? But yeah, I think all of what you guys are saying today about like, him like embracing that role, like really truly is like the thing. Like I think Alan, I think you shared this, but like my TikTok feed was like flooded, and one of the ones that like Straw Hat Goofy shared was the kind of the first time that Tommy becomes the White Ranger. He shared like this like little clip, and he's like, there's no one said it's morphin time like Tommy. Like there was so much passion, and I think that a lot of the things that Josh, you and Brandon talked about with like remaining loyal to this franchise is because like he was deeply passionate about this franchise, and what it meant to him and the lives that he got to touch. Because I mean, this is the thing that it wasn't like some other '90s things that like faded away. No, this got introduced to multiple different generations, and not just that, with the fact that this is originating from Super Sentai, this also got introduced and touched multiple different cultures and countries. And so like it's such a lasting legacy to leave behind.
Well, and it was so like not nostalgia bait or anything, but it was just the nostalgia was strong with this character and with Tommy, the character, and David Frank being a part of it. Because I mean, 20 plus years later, when he came back and did the Green Ranger versus somebody in Superpower Beatdown, I think it was Ryu first, and then he was the White Ranger versus Scorpion a couple years later on Superpower Beatdown. They were just many little, who would win in a fight, but to see him portray it was like, yes, this is legit. It was, I mean, it was so great. Like my inner 7-year-old like freaked the hell out, and and you could tell he was in it for the fun, and then of course that crew went on to do this Legend of the White Dragon, which isn't Power Rangers related, but it's hard not to look at it and be like, it's based in the origins of his Power Ranger cosmos and everything.
It's Power Ranger inspired. Like,
yeah,
if you look at the
Power
costumes,
Rangers adjacent or something. Whatever.
Power Rangers adjacent. I'm also curious. Have you guys ever watched any of the other things that he did, like when he was Bloodsport a couple years ago?
I watched some of it. Yeah, I was getting excited about that. They were going to do a whole universe around his Bloodsport and everything, and I have a signed poster from New York Comic Con with his signature and a bunch of other cast that was going to be a part of that universe, and it didn't really blow up like they wanted it to, but that was an exciting time for a second.
Yeah, Vin Diesel, man. Vin Diesel kind of ruined that. Hollywood, but top, Jason David Frank is greater than Vin Diesel when it comes to Bloodsport.
I think the one thing
100%.
I know I've seen of him outside of Power Rangers was his appearance on Live with Regis and Kathy Lee back in the day promoting the Power Rangers movie. Like I still remember that appearance specifically because that was the show my mom watched, and I was like, no, that's the guy from my show. I want to watch this now too.
Hey, what about VR Trooper?
Ooh,
VR
You know,
yes.
I've never
Trooper.
watched it. Yeah, it was.
I-
I barely remember it, but I know he was on it.
I
Yeah,
don't
so
remember
VR Trooper was
He was in
kind of
one episode,
Saban's.
yeah.
Yeah, it was Saban's attempt to kind of expand that universe. Um,
Oh yeah, I do remember this now. Yeah.
they also did Alien Rangers was a spinoff,
Oh yeah,
which
I
was
mean,
such a,
it,
a weird spinoff.
yeah.
yeah, because it's not even a spin-off. It's like a filler season because it was like when they were filming the movie and they needed somebody else to take over. So they're like,
Yeah.
here, we're going to
Yeah.
do this alien team. Like, oh.
And they had
Yeah,
the
I
kids.
wanna
They had the kid versions of the Rangers.
yeah, I wanna jump in here to the chat. Michael Love says to rest in peace, the legend. And I couldn't agree more. And Alan has so courageously, not it's not courageously, has so courteously put together a little slideshow highlighting Jason David Frank's career.
I mean, yeah, the
Yeah.
Power Rangers, yeah.
Yeah. I remember
Bloodsport.
when they first released the box set of the entire Mighty Morphin Power Rangers saga. It was like 8 years ago, 8, 9 years ago, and I saw it come out, and I jokingly put it on my Facebook like, ha, I so want this. Like this is my childhood in a box right here. And then, LOL, shaking my head, all that stuff. Well, then my brother actually bought it for me. Like he bought me the whole set, and I was like, dude, I'm in my, I'm almost in my 30s. I don't need this. And he said, you wanted it. I could tell you wanted it. And I
Look,
still have it. It's over there. Where is it at? Yeah, it's over. It's over. I should go grab it. But it was great. And there was the best part of it was a documentary on there, which was like a full-fledged documentary about how Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came to America and how they casted the role and how everybody thought this show was going to suck because they were just using the stock footage from the Japanese series with American actors and no one thought this was going to pick up. So they tried to burn through it by playing it every day of the week for like a 2 month period. And they're like, we're just gonna burn through the episodes we bought and then we're gonna be done with it. And then it ended up being like the biggest show of the summer for those after school time blocks, and then just became this massive franchise in America. And it's kind of a cool story, and to see
Yeah.
that he was a part of it from that first season. That I mean, I'm sure it felt great for him to just always rely on that because that's a significant thing in television history.
absolutely. Yeah, I remember like when that hit, man. We joked around about like memories we had growing up, and Power Rangers was the first time that like entertainment ever got me in trouble. I remember actually like kicking my cousin in the head because I'd seen it on Power Rangers. And my parents were like, "No more. You can't do this anymore." Yeah, shout factor, dude.
Love it.
So, Joshua, don't feel bad about being almost 30 and getting that. Like I still collect the Lightning collection figures. Like I collect those.
Oh, I hear you.
I watch the current seasons of Power Rangers. Josh Ricker
Yeah.
can tell you I am a diehard
He
Ranger fan.
does.
Like legitimately, like my wife. I remember when we first started dating, she walked in my room when I still lived with my grandfather until before me and my wife met. That's taking care of my grandparents. And she walked in my room, and I had my shelf and had all the Ranger figures, and she was just like, "Is just your 13-year-old cousin's room, just your room?" I was like, "This is my room, babe." Like this is all mine. And shoot, man, like it's a fandom that will never die with me, like never ever. And
Yeah.
my love for it came because I was so obsessed with the Green Ranger, and
Yeah.
it's just flooded me. And which I mean, like I'm one of those people too. Like to me, Mighty Morphin is probably like the 10 best season. Time Force is the best, but that's a different story, different podcast. So I'm just gonna leave that one there. But
well, it's why they keep going back to it. They won't let you forget about it. Like these, these Boom comics, and I forgot who runs it now. It's no longer Boom. It's somebody.
It's not Boom.
It's somebody else. But I mean, these things are just beautiful, and they just keep on bringing it back. It's like, oh, we're not done yet. Here's more, and
Yeah.
Do y'all read the current, like what's going on now? Like, do y'all keep up with the current comic?
I'm a little bit behind. I read up
Yeah, me
to
too.
Shattered Grid, and then
Same.
that's how far I've gone.
I have the volume. I have the trade paperbacks of the next few volumes. I think I have up to where it splits off to Mighty Morphin and then Power Rangers. I don't have those yet. I want to finish the run that I have before I start buying more. It's like my motivation to read, and I haven't gotten there yet. So.
Yeah, I got behind. Like last year, they were doing this Battle of Eltar, and they're kind of like doing this weird origin story where Zordon, like they were like doing the same where Zordon was like they were exposing him for being selfish because he was always like looking out for the power and not for the kids and their families. And then I kind of like got behind because some stuff happened financially and stuff. But so I'm trying to catch up, but from what I've been seeing on Twitter, it's still going pretty strong. I saw that Ryan Parrott wasn't writing it anymore, which kind of bummed me out because he took over really well for Higgins after Shattered Grid.
Yeah, Higgins.
Kyle Higgins,
great.
So good.
So good. That's why I was almost nervous to start something after Shattered Grid because he really just took care of the series really well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would definitely recommend it. It still kept up really well after he stopped. Like it really did.
I think I have the big deluxe editions like automatically on pre-order, so I just wait till they release and then I binge it. I can't. I spend way too much monthly on my Batman comics. I can't afford to buy any other comics. So
I had started when the series started. I was doing it weekly, and then I stopped doing weekly comics. But I did get when the number one came out, I got the variants of all the different Rangers on that number one. So I have those somewhere. I don't have the Green Ranger because that one was like impossible to find.
Yeah.
So that's on my bucket list of comics, but yeah.
I mean, have you looked when you're at New York Comic Con with me? Because I guarantee you, it's on that floor somewhere.
You work me too hard; I never get a chance.
Oh, that's right. That whip crack. Yeah. Get back to work.
So, today I found myself watching Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I watched the Green with Evil arc, all 5 episodes, and it's classic television. Like from a production standpoint, they made some bold choices with the way they did this show. And
absolutely,
like as an adult, it's like, okay, like this is fine. But as a kid, like it was amazing. Like it was so the way I can't get over the fact that they were able to cut and piece this show together like a ransom note from another show. Like you cut out all these different pieces from Super Sentai and make it into a mostly legible television show for children is amazing to me.
Yeah, it was the first, it's the first time that like I can ever remember, or like even now as an adult, like remember ever experiencing something like that. Like everything else, like never felt like a sewn together corpse of another product. I think like the closest it was parodied. But like that, I think that's what made Power Rangers so special. And the fact that like this is a show that the original source material had been going on since the 1970s in a completely different country. Like you had 20 years of plot before you even began, and I loved that. And I think that like over the years with the comics and the films, and even dropping in the most recent serious reboot they did, like that lore is just has kind of like taken on a life of its own. I think that's part of the reason why it's able to withstand the legacy that it's been able to withstand these past 30 years.
Oh yeah, and they still find a way to make really cool themes for new seasons. Like one of my favorites, which is very underrated, was Mystic Force, which is like more like magic based, which was very different than previous seasons. And then like this past, I think it was like last year, they did Dino Fury, which I really liked a lot. And like they always, I mean, sometimes they do piggyback off of other ideas, but they find really cool ways to keep it interesting and keep these cool villains and keep cool stories. And like I remember like Mighty Morphin was just like the story with Tommy and like the Green Ranger saga and the White Ranger stuff was great. But like when they kept it going with like Zeo, the stories in that were incredible, and then like Turbo, Turbo was, but in space, that's when like I started really to see how deep the narrative and storytelling was in space, which has such a like crazy story. But did y'all? I just thought of this as I mentioned Zeo. Do y'all remember an episode where Tommy had a visit from his brother, his actual brother, in one of the episodes? He's kind of finding his path. Is he ever remember the episode at all?
I remember.
I do not.
I remember that.
No.
I when they put all of Power Rangers on Netflix like 10 years ago, I went through and started watching all of it through. I think I got through most of Zeo.
Yeah, same. But I don't remember that one.
Not long after that episode, his brother had passed away, which was like super sad.
Really?
Oh yeah, like it was a really good episode. It was a very good like brotherly feel episode, kind of like helping you find yourself again. And
yeah, I'm looking at a picture of it right now. Yeah, I remember that episode, but I don't remember that was his brother. Yeah.
The Tommy's episode of Zeo that I remember the most was when they brainwashed Tommy and made him evil again.
Oh yeah.
Like, I remember that. Like, like Power Rangers is pretty much soap operas for kids. Like
it really was.
It really was.
It was. Do you remember the Halloween episode of Zeo where Tommy was like a vampire and Rocky was like the werewolf? And oh man, that was classic.
I think what I remember most about Tommy and Zeo is the ponytail.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, dude.
The manly ponytail. Yes.
Like I cannot.
He rocked it, man.
When my hair's wet and slicked back, I cannot help but think that I look like Tommy. Like whether it's the action figure or just him on the show at a certain point. Like I think once he got cast as Tommy in Mighty Morphin, he just let his hair grow out until he left after Turbo.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like I was gonna say I think his hair stayed long until like he started doing like the convention circuit. Then that's when I started seeing it like more like slick and like shorter.
You remember the episode of Zeo where Kimberly had the audacity to send him a Dear John letter?
Isn't that episode called Dear Tommy?
Like, I think so.
I do remember that because that was devastating to me because I to this day I ship Tommy and Kimberly.
As it should be.
Yeah, I remember that very well.
It was so sad. She's like, "Yeah, I met someone else." Like, okay, jerk.
Well, have you? So I've over the last few months, or I guess over the last few years, I've gotten into like Power Rangers fan theories. I guess the theory is that she started dating Jason, and that's why they are together in Power Rangers Turbo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, who started dating Jason?
Kimberly.
Oh yeah. Well, they're together in the new Power Rangers movie too, or at least they're together in the shot when they're looking up.
That's Kim and Tommy are together in that shot.
Yeah.
Oh
but
yeah.
no, Jason,
right.
Jason, the original Red Ranger.
Yeah. I'm confusing the Jason that we're talking about, the Jason, the character. Yes, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Austin St. John. He ain't no saint though.
I was surprised that he released a statement today because I know the two of them had some they didn't always see eye to eye on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see that he was able to put out a statement today.
Well, I even heard about that as a kid, and I figured as much. I mean, I started Power Rangers with the Tommy saga, but Can you imagine being the leader of the Power Rangers for the first, 15 episodes of a show, and then in comes this new kid, and everybody's like, he's the best. Make him
Yeah,
the
dude.
leader going forward. I can
Yeah.
only imagine how
And
that would
poor
kind of suck as an actor.
and
But
poor Rocky, he was given the Red Ranger mantle, wasn't even the freaking leader. And then get
Yeah.
demoted to Blue Ranger.
Yeah.
Poor guy. And
I
then
just,
he got it taken away for a kid in Turbo.
Oh
I just,
man.
Yeah, but he grew.
the fact that we're talking all about this, and I'm not even up to date on all of the Power Rangers. It's blossomed out into so many things over the years, and just I went back and looked at how many episodes were in the first season. I guess I must have missed, but there was a reversion of the first season where they released it again in 2010.
Yeah.
And it
It
was
was not
like
good.
half the
Yeah.
season. Yeah, it was like they only released 32 episodes of the 60 episode first season, and they tried to add like some new effects to it.
Mhm.
But the first season was 60 episodes, and the fact that they sold that, I mean, and everybody hated it initially from the studio and was like, we bought 60. They bought 60 episodes of a show before realizing that they didn't like it, and then tried to burn through it.
Well,
And over that summer, it just blew up. Like I can't imagine that not working though. You put any show for on TV every day of the week for kids, how is that not going to blow up?
from a production standpoint, though, it makes a lot of sense that they did that because they aired 60 episodes that season, but they really had to spend money for 30 because half of those episodes are all just footage from Super Sentai.
Right.
And like a lot of it, like even watching the Green Ranger arc today, like some of it's just reused footage from earlier episodes. Like Alpha at the console is the same footage of Alpha pushing buttons at the console in
Just
the command
different
center.
context. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible what they did, and then that show that everybody had written off before it even aired. Saban sold the rights to Hasbro a couple years ago for $500 million, and I mean that's how much it exploded, and that's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, and I know this is about the loss of Jason David Frank, but the fact that he was a part of this, and that's why a lot of people just revered him and always appreciated that he kept on sticking to his roots. And I remember he even went and tried to do like an MMA thing for a while, and everyone was like, yes, the Green Ranger getting in the ring, let's do it. But it's hard not to think of him without thinking of Power Rangers and vice versa. It's definitely a staple in my childhood, and I'm sure lots of other people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna say my feed today was just like I just blown up with it. Like it was just RIP JDF, and like both like my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, like everything, every social have was just like rest in peace. And I think that, like earlier this month we lost like Kevin Conroy, and Kevin Conroy meant a lot to people, and to have this happen back to back is heartbreaking. But I think that like Power Rangers was something that like appealed to like such a wider audience. And I don't want to say that like it trumps Batman by any means. But I definitely feel like there was a wider reach of people because you had like multiple different generations. And I think that's the cool thing about Batman the Animated Series is that Batman is still being like introduced to like newer generations as we're getting new iterations of that character.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the two are always connected because they were both Fox kids.
Yep.
I would watch Power Rangers and it would go right into the Batman animated series. Like, I said to my wife this morning, somebody needs to watch over Christopher Daniel Barnes because if Spider-Man goes next, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
I told my wife that if something happens to Keith David, it's going to be bad. because Gargoyle is my favorite show of all time.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
something happens to him, dude, it's over.
Well, and like I was telling Alan the other day, we go to a lot of Comic Cons, and Jason David Frank was, a regular at a lot of the shows that
Oh
I
yeah,
was at. I saw Planet Comic Con in Kansas City posted about him, and he was a regular down there. And yeah, I mean, you know, uh, he was a regular at Comic Cons and Power Rangers events for I imagine half or more of his life, and I never saw him bored. There's people that you see from different shows and different properties that have like a table and they're just sitting there, and you feel bad for them because they're just like, man, I know I'm getting paid for this, but I'm bored as hell. And he was never bored, and he was never alone. There was always somebody at his table. And it's probably like what Josh was talking about, just because of the generations of that show that he was a part of, and all the different age groups he reached. And
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I always thought that was cool.
One of the things that I really respected about Jason David Frank, the person, was during COVID when a lot of comic book shops were hurting because people weren't shopping. He instated what he called the Ranger Rescue Program and went to comic book shops, like not Comic Cons, comic book shops, set up shop with a table and got people in to buy stuff at these stores and saved a lot of them. Like I'm sure some of them still went under, but just the fact that he was able to do that on his own accord, like sure he probably wanted some money too because he was hurting because conventions weren't happening, but it also helped those businesses. Like there's a way that he could have gone about doing that where it just benefited himself, but it also benefited all of those businesses that he went to. And I'm still upset that he didn't make it close to me because I would have gone in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
yeah. He came to a shop in a town near me called Huntsville. I didn't get to go because I don't remember why I couldn't go at the time. But it was around the time that my grandmother was sick and stuff, where she passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And he went there, and he actually went back like a week later. I don't able to make it either, but they posted about him today about how he helped them stay afloat and had a good relationship. And then Huntsville had a Comic Con. He came every year after that, and I didn't get to go. I've met him one time at the Comic Con here in Birmingham, and it was really awesome because like I didn't have the money at the time to to pay to meet him because he was charging a lot of money and the line was long. So he had a panel. He comes in the panel. He goes, "Hey, before I get started, I know a lot of you didn't get to meet me, so come line up here and we'll talk." And so I ran up in there and talked to him for a second, and it was
That's
awesome. Neat. Yeah, it was really cool.
That's
he
awesome.
Did that.
I never got a chance to meet him. Did either of you guys?
No.
No. So
No.
just like Kevin Conroy, he was at a lot of the shows I was at, but I was always like, I'll catch him at another time when I'm not busy.
So I'm the only one
you're
that
the only
has
one
touched
here.
him.
Well,
Has
and
touched him.
I joked around like the year that I did Comic Con with you, Josh, about like I feel like so much of New York Comic Con, like bigger conventions, like you spend a quarter if to not half your time waiting in line to either meet someone or to like see an attraction. And that was kind of always the line. Like I met people at New York Comic Con that had met him when we would talk to people, just kind of passing through about their cosplays. And he was like, yeah, he's like, I met Jason David Frank and I waited in line for 4 hours. And I was like, I just don't have that kind of amount of time to wait
Yeah.
in line to meet a person.
Yeah.
I met a lot of the other Rangers at a local Comic Con that he wasn't at, but it was Austin St. John, it was David Yost, it was Walter Jones. I got to meet all them, and like there was no line, so I just got like I didn't pay to like get anything signed. I just went up and talked to them, and it was terrifying. So I don't know what I would have done if it was Jason David Frank or Amy Jo Johnson, but it was still cool that I got to meet some of the Power Rangers.
Yeah. Birmingham Comic Con had Rocky. What's his name? Steve Cardenas. Like had him and Catherine and the Yellow Ranger from Turbo. Like they had them, and I just walked up to them, just like shook their hand, talked to them for a little bit. It was so cool. Yeah. And like but like that wouldn't happen with Jason David Frank because that line's going to be to the entrance
Yeah.
of the building.
I
Yeah.
I did meet Trini and Catherine, and they were both sweethearts. That's the only two I've ever
I
met.
guarantee you met Aisha, not Trini.
Yeah, Trini. Yeah, you
Aisha,
didn't.
that's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
I was
Sorry.
to
I
say,
Sorry.
was gonna say if you went to
Rest in
Comic Cons
what
in
was
like
just
1997, you might have met
Yeah.
rest in
Trini,
peace,
but
Trini.
yes.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
what
Well,
say,
that
what
just
time
brings
machine
it
are you
back.
in?
It brings us back to why we're talking about this. Not only are we fans of Jason David Frank and of Power Rangers, clearly, but Victims and Villains is a nonprofit as well, and we are always talking about suicide prevention and awareness, and we all were just talking about how it was hard to see him sometimes because there were lines and lines of people, and so he was very popular, he was very loved, he was clearly still getting projects left and right, and so it doesn't matter how many people love you and how many people are in your space and how much money you have, you can still be going through issues and still feel like suicide is the only way out. And unfortunately, that seems to be what happened here. And um, it is sad. It is ultra depressing. It goes against everything I think the majority of us would feel like, oh, if I only had more money, or if I was only rich and famous, my life would be better. And that's not how it works. And so if
No.
someone that high up and that adored and that well off and that loved can be feeling empty and alone and without options, then everybody else can as well. And I certainly wouldn't want anybody to feel like they're alone in that feeling, or that no one else knows what they're going through, or that resources aren't available for them to seek help.
Yeah, and I just want to echo what Josh said. I just put in the chat our link to our mental health resource library. The thing about depression is that it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care your financial status, your class, whether or not you're an average Joe, a beloved celebrity, whether you're not you, it doesn't matter about your race, your sexual orientation, your religious status, political status. It doesn't matter about any of that stuff. It is just, at the end of the day, I mean, anyone can feel depression and anyone can quite literally take their lives. And I think that's kind of what makes this conversation that much sadder. Like, yeah, we've laughed over the last 45 minutes, and like I think we've proven that like this is a fandom that doesn't die, but also at the end of the day, like it's such a heavy thought to think about um Jason David Frank taking his own life. And I just want to speak to anyone that's watching this right now, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this post live, that you're not alone, that there are resources available for you. And whether you're going into the live chat or you're into the actual like video description, there are links in the show notes below to just a plethora of resources. So please stay with us.
And this is what I love about Victims and Villains. One of the things we do is we like going to Comic Cons and setting up a booth there and having resources there. There's if you've ever been to a Comic Con, there is literally something there for everybody. There's comics, there's movies, there's books, there's anime, there's crafts, there's everything. And I guarantee you, especially I mean, small ones, big ones alike. You can go to the New York Comic Con with Alan and I, where there's 250,000 people there. You can go to Grand Comic Con in Grand Island, Nebraska, where there's a couple hundred people there. I guarantee you, there's a handful of people, and every little section of that Comic Con that's dealing with something. And so, when Victims and Villains is able to have a booth at those events and put resources out there, it just hoping that somebody will see that and grab it, or grab it for somebody else. If it reaches one person in that group, it's worth having a booth there. And so that's something that I think is really special about what we do, and something I hope we can continue to keep on doing. as so long as it keeps helping somebody.
Yeah. And so we want to also extend this invitation to you guys. If you guys aren't following us on any of our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, follow us. Throughout this week, not only are we going to be posting our favorite memories of Jason David Frank, but we're going to be posting resources that are not only going to be mental health, but also in alignment with the release of She Said. We're going to be releasing sexual assault resources as well for any of those dealings. But this Friday, we're also going to be on our Discord. We're going to be doing a movie night, watching the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie from 1995, and sharing our own thoughts and opening it up to our community, talking about Jason David Frank, similarly to how we are tonight here on YouTube, but also at the same time to remind people that they're not alone. And as you guys can see on the screen, if you or someone you know is struggling, it takes 3 simple numbers, 988, to dial or text to get help today.
Well said.
That's all I've got.
Yeah.
I for one was already excited to see the Legend of the White Dragon, but now it's going to hit differently.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely Power Ranger-esque if you can see the image on the screen here, but at least we get to see one last performance from Jason David Frank before he. I think his time on the production was done, so I think they're in post production now. So we should be able to see the full final performance of him in this. So,
And I think it's one of Bat and the Sun's biggest single productions that they've ever invested in. So I'll be really interested to see that for sure. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Now, is it a feature or is it like a short?
it's a feature.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
why it's so big. Yeah, most of their stuff are shorts, but yeah, this is a full on feature. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us here tonight to talk about Jason David Frank. If you guys are watching this post the live that we're currently doing, please leave us a comment on this, letting us know which iteration of Power Rangers you loved the most, what Jason David Frank meant to you. Share your Comic-Con memories with us, and once again, if you were anyone you know is struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, click the links in the show notes below or in the chat to please check out our mental health resource library, because you are not alone. Thank you.
May the power protect you.
Lord Zed was right.
Yeah.